welcome to this workshop with Living with Anxiety, presented by Liz John Ramapuram and co-hosted by myself, Nivedana R. So I am Nivedana. I am a counselor here at MindTribe. I have been in the field of psychology for more than 5 years now, and I take up cases dealing with anxiety, overthinking, work life, etc. So our presenter will be Liz John. And before we start over with the workshop, there are a few rules and norms that we would request all the participants to follow just to ensure the smooth running of the workshop. The workshop entries will always end at 12:10, as we all know, and the workshop will hopefully end at 1 p.m. And during the workshop, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box. If you have any opinions to share, feel free to drop it in the chat box. Unless it's an emergency and you want to share it, please raise your hand, and once you're called upon, you can unmute yourself. Until then, I request everyone to keep themselves unmute and switch off their cameras. I request everyone to please maintain decorum and respect everyone in the meeting. And I just want to remind you all that this workshop will be recorded. Only the presentation will be recorded. None of the chats will be documented. So, with that being cleared, let's move on. Over to you, Liz.
Hi, I'm so sorry for that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I apologize. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking your time out on a Saturday in the afternoon. We appreciate your willingness to want to learn a little more about anxiety and how to cope with it. Before we start, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Liz John Ramapuram. I have about 7 years of experience in the field of psychology. My area of expertise is anxiety and depression and relationships. So let's move on to the topic of interest for today, anxiety. Before we begin, I'd once again like to emphasize on the fact that this is a recorded workshop. So let's go to table of contents. First, we will go through what exactly anxiety is, right? We will take a look at the signs and the symptoms of anxiety and how anxiety affects our day-to-day life and what can we do individually to manage it. Take a moment to name what you believe your anxiety is. Before we get to the main focus, let's just name out our anxiety. Is it fear? Is it being very worried? Do you feel your body being tensed? Do you think you no longer have control over your life? These are just certain examples. If you can think of any other names for your anxiety, please feel free to put in the chat. And Nivedana, can you read them out to me, please?
Yes. Ambreen has put up fear of unknown.
Fear of unknown. That's a wonderful way of.
And Devyani has said underconfident. Shubham Garg has said restlessness. Isha saying fear of being alone and left out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's fear of failure, being overwhelmed, voices in my head.
All wonderful ways to name anxiety. Thank you, guys. We will keep all of this in mind when we proceed with the workshop. Here's a little something from us to you, right? This butterfly hug. This can be done when you feel overwhelmed or when emotions seem to overpower you, and you cannot afford it at the time, right? So something that you can do by yourselves in the moment when you feel anxiety approaching. So what you do for a butterfly hug is you cross your arms over your chest, you hold both your arms, right? And your eyes can either be closed or they can be partially closed. You alternate the movement of your hands, like the flapping wings of a butterfly. So you can rub your upper arms up and down, and you aim to breathe slowly and deeply. Why we specify slowly and deeply, I will explain further on in our session. But this is how a butterfly hug is usually done, to just calm down a person. It's a feeling of safety that you bring yourself when you feel unsafe. A little something from us for you. Now, we would like to define anxiety, right? I don't know if all of you have watched it, but if you have watched Inside Out too, the whole concept of anxiety is explained in a very beautiful manner. It's in a very easy to understand manner. Anxiety is basically our body's natural response to stress. It is a feeling of worry, which is accompanied by some sort of tension in your body. So here in the movie, they distinguished between fear and anxiety, and I think it's a very important distinction that they gave. So fear is a reaction to a stimulus that you can see. What is there in the environment? You are afraid of that. You using your senses, you can see, you can hear, you can touch what you are afraid of. So that is fear. Now, anxiety is a reaction to a stimulus that you might not be able to see as well. You might be expecting to see it, it might be in your head. Both fear and anxiety, both of them are in place to keep you safe. That is bottom line, right? You need both fear, you need anxiety. The challenge is if anxiety seems to overpower your life, if it seems to want to take control of your life, that is when it can become a problem. Anxiety is not the enemy. The fact that we are unable to control our anxiety, that is the challenge that we all face. And most people experience this at some point in their life, right? Once again, it only becomes challenging when this anxiety disrupts our life. So let's take a quick look at the types of anxiety. And before we elaborate, I'd like to ask you what you think the different types of anxiety are. If any one of you could either raise your hand, unmute yourself, and speak, it would be great. Or we can just put it in the chat and Nibetina can read it out to me. We're good with anything. I can give you guys 10, 20 seconds for this. Anyone willing to speak out?
Shubham has said social anxiety. Isha has raised her hand. Please go ahead, Isha.
Anxiety in the form of feeling fear for everything. Like you don't feel like anything good will happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you start questioning every single thing that happens in your life.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And also the fear of being around people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Isha.
That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Right, there are multiple responses in the chat box. There's agoraphobia, generalized anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
high functioning anxiety, OCD, hypochondria, fear of losing my loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
phobias, and
Great.
many more.
Great. Thank you, Nivedana. Thank you, everyone. So you all do know quite a bit about anxiety. That's quite the relief here. But over here, we will be talking about four kinds of anxiety, right? Let's first talk about phobia and social anxiety. Now, phobia, it is being intensely afraid of something that is quite possibly irrational, as the object of worry may possess little to no harm. Let's think of people who are scared of dogs, right? Just an example over here. Now, phobias can develop if you have had an unpleasant incident with the dog in the past, or you've heard or seen someone else having an unpleasant interaction. Now, this fear is developed in that one unfortunate circumstance, and this can be generalized across all breeds of dogs. It might have been one dog, but now, because of how intense that fear was, when you first heard it, or when you first saw it, or when you experienced it, it has now become I'm afraid of all dogs. Now, this experience that I just told you about, it is just one example. Some people can be afraid of stimuli that they have had no interaction with at all, right? You won't even know that it's when you first enter a plane that you realize that, oh my God, I'm afraid of heights. You never knew that before, right? Now that is phobia. This intense fear is what phobia is. Now, social anxiety, it mainly includes the fear of judgment, right? You are so afraid of judgment from others that you keep thinking that you will embarrass yourself, right? And this feeling of you embarrassing yourself can be so strong that it can lead to isolating yourself as well. You no longer want to go out. You're very uncomfortable in a gathering, in a social gathering. You don't really want to speak up because what if I say something that doesn't really make sense, right? That can be social anxiety. Again, speaking up is one example. Social anxiety can be presented in various ways as well. Let's talk about two more kinds of anxieties. Separation anxiety. This is usually seen in babies. Think of infants who cry as soon as their mother leaves the room. They think that the mother is no longer in their lives. Their primary caregiver has been taken away from them, and they feel that they have lost their sense of safety. But once they grow a little bigger, they understand that their mother is around them. She is still in their lives. It is just that they cannot see their mother currently. And this crying when the mother is no longer visible to them, all of this is a normal step in development. So it is to be expected. Now we take this problem and we put it into our adult lives and we tweak it a bit. People who have an anxious attachment style, they tend to develop more of separation anxiety. They might step into relationships expecting the other person to leave them. They tend to fear distance between them and their loved ones, thinking that their loved one will eventually get tired of them and leave. This fear that they have might lead them to make calls that can possibly affect their relationship. Moving on to panic disorder. It is labeled so when a person gets episodes of panic attacks over and over again. Panic attacks have both physiological and mental symptoms, like sweating, being unable to breathe properly, feeling faint, quite possibly, as well as racing thoughts. The person slowly starts wondering, will I get another attack? And they focus so much on when am I going to get another attack that that is their main focus. It is no longer the experience of the panic attack, it's the thought of, oh my lord, when will I get another one? Right? They're so intensely focused on the panic attack that they might or might not get in the future. Might have been a bit much, so let's just take a few seconds to just breathe. Breathing is very important when the topic anxiety comes in. Again, I will explain why as we move ahead. So, what do you think the impact of anxiety can be on daily living? If one of you can, again, either raise your hand and speak, or if y'all can put in the chat, we can know how much you think anxiety can affect daily living.
Someone says procrastination,
Mm-hmm.
isolation,
Correct. Very good points. Anything else?
hinders social relations,
Mm-hmm.
and unable to do our daily chores.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nivedana. You did seem to get points that I'm going to make. Anxiety can affect two spheres of our life, right? One is our personal, and the other one is our professional life. Now, in our personal life, let's look at when I speak about personal life, I look at relationships with others, relationship with yourself. Someone said procrastination, someone said being unable to take care of yourself. All true, right? When you're extremely anxious about something, you might have a tendency to freeze and you might keep thinking about the same thing over and over again, such that you probably will be unable to communicate what exactly you're feeling, what your thoughts are, why you're feeling certain things, and what could be the possible reason for feeling a certain way. You probably won't be able to communicate. You won't be able to ask another person for help. When we're talking about relationships with other people, you probably will have conversations in your head about a certain topic, right? You probably will assume this is what the other person is going to say. If I say this, they will say this, and it's just all going to go to waste, right? All of this miscommunication can strain relationships. And miscommunication can also impact our emotional intimacy that we have. Because what if they hurt me? I know that they are inevitably going to hurt me. Every person hurts me. Heck, I hurt myself. I do not want to be emotionally attached to another person. How are we going to live if we're not going to be emotionally attached to another person, right? This is how anxiety can strain our relationships. Now, when it comes to professional life, like I mentioned earlier, anxiety might cause us to freeze. So imagine we have, so there is this area in our brain, it's called the amygdala, that's responsible for the fight or flight response. There's also something else that comes in. It's called freeze. What if we get so anxious, our body just gets stuck? We can't fight, we can't flee, right? So much is happening in our head that we are just stuck. We don't know what to say, we don't know what to think, we don't know how to move. Put this at work, the situation at work. We know we have a deadline coming up, we have a lot to do. Will I be able to do it? If I do it, will I be doing it right? What if they find major mistakes? Will I be embarrassed? What is the point in doing this? I don't think I should do this. I'll do this later. Anyway, I'm going to get embarrassed by it. Anyway, people are going to yell at me. Why should I do it now? Do you see how procrastination came in? Do you see how this will lead to, oh my gosh, there is so much left to do? Congratulations, we have come a full circle. And it all started with, we have so much to do. Will I be able to do it? How will I be able to do it? Why am I doing this if I'm going to get yelled? Right? Before even taking that first step, we have decided, very unfortunately, that this will be a failure. Anxiety came in. What was supposed to once save us, what was supposed to be the reason why we would do our best, has very unfortunately become the reason why we no longer try. So this can lead to decreased productivity. We might not even want to go to our workplace. Absenteeism. And there is also difficulty with decision making because we are so in our head. Again, teamwork also requires communication because we think another person cannot understand what we are saying, because we think that the other person might make fun of us. It affects our teamwork as well. Same thing with school life. It can affect our academic performance. Again, absenteeism becomes attendance. Difficulty with teamwork becomes problems in socialization in school. I hope that was understood. Over here, like I mentioned earlier, interference with productivity. When we freeze, we know we are no longer able to do what we are supposed to do, right? If we do the work we're supposed to do, we probably won't get yelled at. We might get yelled at, that's a different thing. But because we're so worried about getting embarrassed, we are unable to take that first step. The disruptions of social relationships. Here comes, what if we hurt the other person by what we say? And what if they want to hurt us after and we get hurt in the end? Why should I say this? Why should I make any effort in being with in this relationship? Impaired decision making comes because we're so into all of these thoughts, these very unfortunate negative thoughts about a situation, that we can't really make a call at the time it is supposed to be made. Sleep disturbances happen when we are tired, right, with the day. We are tired with all the thoughts that are in our head. We just want to sleep. But we shut off the phone. We go lie down on our bed. Lights are off. Blanket is over us. Yet we cannot stop our brain. Our brain is racing and there seems to be no control. And because of our racing brain, we just want to break. We just want to break from all these thoughts. What do? Take our phone. Let's just scroll for some time. We stop scrolling. Again, these thoughts come back in. Let's distract ourselves. Take the scrolling until we fall asleep. And this can take about 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours, such that our sleep cycle is ruined. We won't be able to get up fresh. Our body won't be able to take the rest it needs. Right? That's how sleep gets disturbed. And it becomes a pattern, it becomes a habit over time. Let's look at the physical symptoms of anxiety. Sweating, right? If we keep shaking our legs constantly and we cannot seem to stop them. Now, here's the thing, not everyone who keeps shaking their leg is anxious. Some of it is just force of habit. They saw this, they saw someone doing this when they were younger, they wanted to know how it was done, they did it, it just became a habit. But every person that is going through some sort of anxiety will either freeze or will constantly move one or the other part of their body. Avoidance of a particular situation. Again, if we think we can't face it, we'd rather avoid it. Daily responsibilities. Now, we are so caught up in our thoughts that even a thing like, oh, let's make food, that becomes a burden, right? And this is not even professional, it's daily personal responsibilities, personal grooming, it's self care, whatever it is. It all becomes a burden simply because we cannot seem to get out of our head. We can't seem to catch a break. And just the further slides, a few slides, are just going to be examples of what anxiety might feel like to you, to me, to anyone, right? This might be the cognitive part of anxiety, where we tend to overanalyze a situation to the point of being unable to make a decision, like I explained earlier. We imagine the worst possible outcome of a situation and obsess over it. We no longer try to take steps to make sure that this worst possible outcome doesn't happen. We have just concluded that it is going to happen, and now what do we do about it? We're not doing anything to avoid it. We having excessive fear and anxiety about what may happen in the future. So we no longer do anything in the present. We just arise around the future. Our future is looking bleak. We won't do anything to make sure that bleakness doesn't happen. Think of being anxious over some part of your body. Over here, it is heart, right? Starts with, what if something is seriously wrong with my heart? And you're constantly thinking that something is wrong with your heart. So, what do you do if you're someone who used to exercise a lot? I am afraid to exercise or engage in any activity that might strain my heart. Any physical sensation in my chest makes me think it is a heart problem. If I run too much and then that pain in the chest happens because I haven't run in a long time, again, heart attack, right? When you want to say something, when you want to give out an opinion, I am going to say something stupid, and that'll lead me to embarrassing myself, and so I won't say anything, and that will lead to nobody wants to talk to me. So I'm just gonna go stand here alone, and then it'll be I don't belong here, and every other person can tell that I don't belong here. It can also be, what if I go crazy this time for real? What if something terrible happens to my loved one? This time for sure something is wrong with me. And the bottom line, I have to worry, or else what if something bad happened to me? Because we think worrying will lead us to think of all possible outcomes, and we might be prepared. That is how we start, right? What is the guarantee that we will be prepared for every single outcome that can possibly happen? You worry about simple things like saying hello, rehearsing how you should say it, and we constantly replay previous conversations in our head and we magnify the situation. We read a text message over and over and over again, and we try to find the meaning in between the lines. We don't take things as is. We, we then feel tired. We then feel exhausted. We are unable to concentrate. Our muscles are stiff because there is a physiological response to anxiety as well. And we have trouble sleeping. Let's take a break over here. Let's think. Did I relate to any of this? Is this a part of my life? Am I always like this? In the meantime, just like those moments on YouTube when a quick ad pops up, we have a short ad break for you as well. Don't worry, this will be quick and it'll be super beneficial for you, so stay tuned, please. All right, let's dive in. So, what exactly is one on one counseling? It is a personalized, confidential chat between you and a trained therapist. Imagine having someone who listens, who really listens, understands you, and helps you figure things out. What are the benefits? Personal growth, solving problems, setting goals, and boosting your mental well being. It's like having a personal coach, but for your mind. Let's bust a big myth. Many think that counseling is only for those who are unwell. Nope, that's not true. Counseling is for anyone who wants to just be their best self. You want better relationships, more friends, a spot in your dream college or job? Counseling can help you with all that. It really is about making the best version of you. So, why MindTribe? First off, our counselors are super talented, plus, we're super affordable, with the sessions ranging from rupees 500 to 5,000. And guess what? Your first session is absolutely free. Once you're comfortable, you can choose from our affordable packages. Empowering minds, transforming lives. That's what we do at MindTribe. Before we jump back into our main presentation, do you have any urgent questions about counseling? Now would be your chance to ask. I'll give about 10 seconds if you have any questions. Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Let's move on. What could be the possible interventions that you can do when you're going through anxiety, right? It's not like every time you can ask for help from others. You need to know certain things that you can do to manage your anxiety in that moment. People think, when we have heard, just breathe. There is a reason why people say just breathe. There is a link between the mind and our body. Just like when we are very tense, when we have a lot of thoughts in our head, when we are afraid of something, our muscles tense, right? Our heart starts beating fast. We start breathing shallow. You can do the opposite as well. So, if you forcefully inhale slowly, exhale a lot, right? And you forcefully slow down your physiological body, which can be in your control, your mind can calm down as well. That is the whole purpose behind why people say breathe, breathe. You can breathe through it, right? And the deeper inhales and exhales that you take, the more blood is going to go to your brain and you can think more rationally. Three breathing exercises over here. Let's first talk about box breathing. Now, box breathing is something that is advised to people who can practice this, right? Again, this is all a habit that you have to develop. So it's not that if you can start while you're having an anxiety attack, it will work then. No, it is a habit that you have to develop before when you're feeling relatively calm. If you can do this thing called box breathing, it is basically breathing in for 4 seconds, holding that breath for 4 seconds, exhaling through your nose, through your mouth for 4 seconds, and again holding that for 4 seconds. And you keep doing this. The time is the same. The time remains constant. It is 4. If you want to increase it to 5 to 6 seconds, go for it. But make sure that the time remains the same through the inhalation, the holding, the exhalation, and the holding. It's advised to do this for about 3 minutes at least, just so you are regulating your breathing, right? Then comes abdominal breathing. Now, this involves breathing in slowly through the nose and then out through the mouth using the diaphragm, which is the thin muscle that separates the chest from the abdomen and abdominal muscles. So, this helps boost the amount of oxygen in the blood. It lowers blood pressure and heart rate and reduces muscle tension. It can help with stress relief, as abdominal breathing can help with pain relief and with anxieties too. Now, the 4-7-8 breathing technique, it involves breathing in for 4 seconds, holding the breath for 7 seconds, and exhaling for 8 seconds. This breathing pattern aims to reduce anxiety or help people to get sleep, right? Because it can, in a way, mimic sleep, as when you sleep, you tend to breathe in for longer and you tend to exhale for longer and you tend to hold your breath for longer as well. And it is not uniform all the time like box breathing, right? Let's look at techniques for relaxation. The first would be progressive muscle relaxation. Over here is when you tense and relax groups of your muscle groups, right? And you start from the bottom. You start from your feet, you tense and you relax, and you go up to your calves, your thighs, your abdomen, your chest, your neck, and it goes up. There are a few specific muscle groups that I mentioned. It would be best if you go to a therapist and they will show you how to do it, and then you can practice it by yourself. Guided imagery involves sitting or lying quietly and imagining yourself. Over here, you use the imagination part of your brain. You imagine yourself in your favorite peaceful setting, like a beach, meadow, forest. And how do you feel? Right? How relaxed do you feel at this time? And you sit and tell yourself what exactly are you seeing in your imagination. What color is the water if it's by the beach? What color is the water? Where is the sun? What is it doing to your body? Again, all of this would be best if it is first done with a trained therapist, and then you can carry it on by yourself. Meditation over here would be focusing at one point. It can be a word, it can be a stimulus in your environment, and just focusing on it and breathing. Over here, what happens is you allow the thoughts that are in your head that will come as distraction. You allow it to happen, and then you get back to focusing on that one point. You work consciously, you're taking efforts to focus on one thing. And when you focus on that one point for a long time, you will slowly be able to relax yourself. Nivedana, can you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, Liz. So, we've now covered relaxation techniques. A very close cousin of relaxation is mindfulness. So, mindfulness is basically
I have a question
being.
to Liz. I have a question to Liz. Just as she
Uh,
explained, yes.
can we take this question at the end?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so coming back to mindfulness is basically being present in the moment. Uh, Maybe it being aware of your surrounding, being aware of your body, of your thoughts and feelings. So there are a few techniques to achieve this mindfulness. Of course, it's not once you try it you achieve mindfulness, but there are a few techniques that are quite effective. Uh, Yes. So the first one being body scan. Body scan is basically focusing on each part of your body without doing anything about it, just being aware of what is happening in your body. It's very similar to imagine yourself being in a dark room, lying down in a dark room with only one spotlight on top, and imagine that spotlight going from your head to toe slowly, and whichever part of the body that spotlight falls on, you observe how you're feeling there. For example, if you're observing your forehead, see if you are relaxed in your forehead, or are your eyebrows relaxed, and like that you go through each part of the body and being aware of what is happening in your body. Sensory focus is very similar to that, but you focus on your sense organs. So for example, let's take the sense of sight. So you will just focus on the sense of sight and see, I can see a bottle, I can see the birds, I can see the colors. So you just focus on what each of your sense organs are feeling, feeling or perceiving, so that you're just aware and present in the moment. Because as we've already discussed, anxiety can make you overthink, let your mind run in many different directions. So bringing it back to the present moment and seeing how you're feeling, what is currently happening in you and in your surrounding, lets you feel relaxed a little bit more. And moving on to non-judgmental awareness, it's basically being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your feelings, and not judging it. If you have a thought, just let it pass. Just observe that you are having that thought, and not doing anything about it, or not judging if it's a good thought or a bad thought. So it's basically just being aware of the present and of your feelings, of your thoughts. Next slide. Thank you. So, using non-dominant hand, I'm sure every one of us have tried writing in your non-dominant hand or brushing in your non-dominant hand. That, if you've observed it, that'll bring your entire focus to what you're doing. For example, if you're writing using your non-dominant hand, you're entirely focused on what word you're, what letter you're writing, because it needs that much focus and effort because you're not used to it. So that brings you to the present moment, and it'll help you stay in the moment and not, overthink or let your thoughts run. And mindful breathing, this is just observing your breathing, how you inhale, how you exhale, the rate of your breathing. You don't have to do anything to adjust your breathing. You don't have to slow down your breathing. You don't have to force it to, fasten or slow down. It's just being aware that you're inhaling and the air is passing through your lungs, and when you're exhaling, the air is going out. Just being mindful about it. And loving kindness meditation is while you are breathing or while you're meditating, being aware of the warm and loving feeling that is inside you. Try to picture, like, tap into the positive thoughts that are inside you, positive feelings and emotions that are inside you. And while doing this, tell yourself three positive affirmations like, I am strong, I can do this, I can completely, finish this task successfully. So, being kind to yourself, showing that love to yourself, and bringing you bringing yourself back to the moment will definitely help, calm yourself. Of course, none of these techniques are done once and you'll feel better. It's none of it is like that. You'll have to practice it again and again, and you will achieve, the mindfulness and the relaxation and the calmness. Next slide, please. So we've discussed already that anxiety will result in procrastination. I must say I have personally been affected by this. So I'll give you an example of mine, and I'll tell you how I overcame that procrastination and completed that task. So next slide. So, as we all know, procrastination is putting out the task even closer to the deadline or past the deadline, because we just can't get ourselves to start the task. It's not exactly laziness, because laziness is just one wants to relax and does not care about the task. But in procrastination, there is a guilt, there's a feeling of guilt that I have to do this task, I have to finish this task, but I just can't find myself to, start the task. So what happens is, sometimes the task, you just can't get yourself to start the task because the task might look like a big goal. It might seem overwhelming. So breaking the task into smaller parts is always helpful. So I told you an example of that I would discuss an example of mine. So I had to make this presentation for my thesis while I was doing my masters. So doing a presentation for thesis seemed like a big goal. I mean, because it's thesis, and it seemed huge, and it was very overwhelming for me. I could not get myself to start the task. So what I did was I sat down, I broke the task into smaller steps. For example, choosing the theme for my presentation, and then choosing what are the topics that I'm going to cover in this thesis, and then working on one of the topic per, like one at once. So taking small steps at a time will definitely help you finish the task easier. And one of the most effective techniques to overcome procrastination is the Pomodoro technique. I'm sure a lot of you might have heard about it, it's quite famous. So, what Pomodoro technique basically tells you is you will select a single task and focus only on that task, but you will not do it at one stretch. Because doing a task for hours might not seem as motivating. So you'll just say, I will start a task for 25 minutes. So you'll set a timer for 25 minutes, do the task for 25 minutes, and take a break of 5 minutes. And then after the 5-minute break, you'll continue the task for 25 more minutes and take another 5 minutes ka break. So you'll repeat this cycle for 4 times, and after that you'll take a long 30-minute break. So doing this, you're also finishing your task while you're also giving yourself that rest and the time to relax. So this way your brain is not overworked. This way you're even finishing your work, and everything will get done. And to achieve all this, it's very important to set specific and realistic goals. So, what this means is, for example, if I say I want to write a book, that's that is a goal, but it's not really specific. So, because I can write a book any time in my lifetime, right? So, it's very important to keep it like I will write at least one chapter of my book this month. So you are setting a specific goal, and it's realistic. You can't say I will finish this whole book today, because that's not really realistic, right? It's practically not possible to write an entire book in one day. So it's very important to set specific and realistic goals so that you're not overwhelmed by the goals, and you know what the next best step is. When you set the specific goals, you know what you have to do next. And you would have broken the task into smaller steps, so you know what you have to do next. And when you have that plan laid out, and when you can see achievable goals in your list, you will be motivated better to achieve those tasks. Handing over to you, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nivedana. Moving on. Let's talk about techniques for sleeping. I told you, racing thoughts, distraction, everything will affect our sleep. So, what could possibly be the techniques to sleep? Might seem very basic, but if you remember, what we did during childhood helped us sleep a lot more than what we're doing now in our adult life. A bedtime routine. Set like maybe an estimate time. Maybe by 11 o'clock, I will sleep. Or between, set a range, 11 to 11:30. In between this time, I will start sleeping. This is going to be the time that I'm going to sleep. Set the number of hours that you want to sleep. Set another range between 6 and 6:30. I will wake up and I will start my day. A comfortable sleep environment. Not everyone can fall asleep when the lights are on. So what make sure you know in which environment you sleep best. Limited exposure to electronics. This is research backed, right? The more you use your phone, the more you use the iPad, the tablets, your laptop just before sleeping, the longer it takes to sleep. Regular exercise, again, it's all the good hormones that are released in our body. It is also the fatigue that exercise brings in. When you use our physical body more, our body itself needs the rest. So you will have a tendency to go to sleep. Caffeine and alcohol regulation. Not much has to be said about this. We know coffee keeps us awake, that is why we drink coffee. We also know alcohol can either slow down our brain or we can have racing thoughts. So, the more we regulate it, the better we get to sleep, the better discipline we can have in our lives. Let's talk about a few grounding exercises. Now, grounding exercises are used to make sure that we are in the present. They can be used when we are going through anxiety, right? So let's talk about the first one, grounding chair. So how we do this is we sit down in a comfortable chair, one where our feet can reach the floor. We close our eyes and focus on our breath. We breathe in slowly for the count of 3, then out slowly. We bring our mind's focus to our body. How does my body feel sitting in that chair? We scooch to the back of the chair and such that the whole length of your back is pressed into the back of your chair. Can we feel the contact between our body and the chair's surface? If the chair has arms, touch it. Is the material smooth or textured? We press our arms down the length of the chair arm and we notice how our hands hang off the end. If your chair doesn't have arms, touch the material on the seat. How does that feel? Next, we push our feet into the ground. Imagine the energy draining from our mind down through our body and out through our feet into the ground. As the energy drains from your head, feel how heavy each body part becomes. Your torso feels heavy, and now your arms as you relax those muscles. Lastly, feel the heaviness go down your legs, through your feet, and down into the ground. Over here, the five senses method is also helpful. Now, this is another grounding exercise designed to manage acute stress and reduce anxiety. I emphasize the acute stress and reducing anxiety because, like I told you earlier, this can be done while we are going through anxiety. So, this involves identifying 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It will help bring you to the present physical world and away from your racing thoughts. Next comes the alphabet game. How we play this is we pick any category. For example, schoolmates. We go through their names starting from the alphabet A to Z. Did I have a classmate from A? What are the other classmates that I had whose names started with A? Go to B, C, till Z. This again is used to bring a person back to the present as it requires focus. It is also proven to help induce sleep as the more we try to think, it's like counting sheep, right? Try to count a lot, you try to use your head a lot, you tend to feel sleepy. Then comes how does therapy help with anxiety? I gave you all these techniques. Is there a reason why you need a therapist with you? Pretty much, yes. Because the whatever exercises that I mentioned right now, all of this you can do by yourself, 100%. But this will manage your physical symptoms of anxiety. And you can manage with just managing your physical symptoms, no doubt about it. But what if you can solve it at the core? Why did you start this anxiety? What could have possibly led to it? What else can you do to better this anxiety? How can you fight your thoughts? That comes with psychoeducation. A therapist can help you identify the links between the different thoughts that you have, links that you might not be able to see for yourself. Therapist can help you face your fear. A therapist is there to provide support to you when you feel overwhelmed. They can understand why you're feeling overwhelmed. How can you feel a little less overwhelmed? And validating feelings. The more anxious you are, the more you might want to talk to someone about it, or you might think no one else understands. That a trained therapist does. Therapy is your safe space. Some conclusions and takeaways from here, from this workshop. Anxiety is a common mental health condition. I'd like to emphasize it's common. No one is alone. We might think we are alone, we might think no one understands, but it is a very common mental health condition. And it can be managed with a combination of interventions and management techniques like the ones we just mentioned. Seeking help is very important. And there are many resources available for individuals struggling with anxiety that include therapy. It also includes medication and other support groups. Do not think that you are alone and please reach out for help when you need it. Breaking the stigma. When we educate ourselves and others about mental health, we can help reduce the stigma around anxiety and other health conditions. If we take a step to better ourselves, others can watch us and they can think the same. And they can take their step to help break the stigma too. And thank you. This was our workshop on anxiety. The floor is now open for any questions or queries or anything that you'd like to discuss. Feel free. So, yes,
Uh,
someone raised their hand.
yes.
Yeah. First of all, very good afternoon to all of you, respected ma'ams, and thank you so much for providing this kind of practical education right here. Thanks for the providing all kind of anxieties and all kind of different types of all the things. My question is like when a person is going through some kind of severe anxiety, then at that time, how can we analyze that that person is going through anxiety, a different kind of anxiety, and how can we console him or her?
If someone is going through an anxiety attack, and that probably is not the time for us to analyze what is the source of your anxiety, right? It's
Yeah,
like having a fever, and so you need to give the person medication. You cannot ask them, "How did you get fever at that time?" You let the person go
yeah,
through the fever. They can go through it by themselves at that time. And once they are able to get to the other side, that is when you try to help. What exactly happened? There is a lot of background history that has to be taken to understand what exactly is the source for the anxiety that they felt, which again, I do not have the time to sit and explain everything. But
yeah, okay.
like when you have a fever, you go to a doctor. When
Yeah,
you see
sure.
a person has anxiety, you go to a therapist. They will figure it out much better. You can help them by telling them the techniques that we told you earlier, the breathing ones that I told you about,
And the exercise and all.
the grounding chair exercises.
Yeah.
This will help them come back to the present. This is how you can help in the moment. But if they want to get to the bottom of it, you take them to the doctor. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that answered your query.
Yes, Hira Singh, please go ahead.
Yeah. If I'm doing a presentation and anxiety arises, how to control it?
I'm so sorry, I did not understand that question.
See, one time it happened to me. I was giving a presentation for the project,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly I started shaking there, and I was unable to control it. Then, but that many people were there, finance head, CEO, around 50 people were there. It was a greenfield project. Then I started shaking. Project was very big. Honestly, I started shaking there. Then I had to tell them, sorry, I'm going short call. I stopped it and went to bathroom, and I controlled myself small and came back and started a presentation. It happened. If it happens again, how to control?
Like I mentioned to another person, when it is happening, all you can do is let it happen, right? Before that and after that, a lot of breathing exercise that I mentioned earlier that will help. But when it's happening and you want to do certain things in private, another suggestion that I would give is tapping your fingers into the palm of your hand, one finger at a time, such that you can focus on it, and it's a light touch, right? Keep
Okay.
doing that until you can focus on that, and do it while you are presenting your topic as well. Again, we'll have to first understand what exactly is causing the anxiety, right? There is a root
Mhm.
cause. The external symptoms are all signs of internal chaos, right? And until we understand what exactly is causing it, certain things that work for certain people might not work for you, right?
Yeah.
But by just saying the symptom, no one will be able to tell you what exactly to do. Which is why there is a lot of things that we'll have to discuss. Again, if it is any physical symptom that you want to manage, the techniques that I told you about should be able to work.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes, yes, Isha, go ahead.
So, ma'am, you told us about the benefits of having a therapist with us.
Hmm.
So, it happened with me that I tried multiple platforms with therapists, different therapists. So, I went on with my therapies, but I just couldn't figure out that I just didn't feel any change. And also, I just they said that it's a long process, and I'm being someone with extreme anxiety issues, so we most of the time lack patience to wait for our therapies to proceed. So how to cope up with that, it might take 3 months, 4 months, or maybe years to solve the core issue that we have.
Hmm.
But because of anxieties, not even me, but many of the people that I know, they have left the therapies because they just cannot maintain the patience with their therapists.
Correct.
Also, when things like this happen, when we don't see certain immediate change
Hmm.
or anything, we just feel like it's not just working out with us.
Yes. But that
So, how to cope up with that?
But that again, if you can explain to your therapist initially itself that I have tried, right, and I've been unable to be patient, I need to see the results, right? One of two things can happen. Either the therapist can give you things like the exercises that we mentioned, right? There might be certain exercises that work for you, right? But here's the thing, Isha. If you've been having a problem for a long time, right? Wanting a cure for it immediately, and the problem is in your mind, wanting a cure for it immediately, a problem that you've been growing, a problem that has been growing with you all your life. If one day you go to therapy and we say that I want a solution for it immediately, it just like we take antibiotics, and for antibiotics to work, it takes 10 days or 7 days, and there's a particular dosage that has to be given for the virus or the bacteria to go away. Same thing with therapy, right? It is impatient, 100%. I completely agree with you. When we are anxious, we just want to get out of it, 100%. So, in the meantime, ask when we ask the therapist, can you give me something to hold me off, right? Like make sure that I continue. There will be exercises that the therapist can tell you. Again, it is all very client centered. There is nothing as a gist or a general thing that anyone and everyone can do, because what works for you won't work for me. For that, the two of you will have to understand the backstory of our problem, right? And then we'll have to see what exactly worked when you got anxious all your life. Like what did you do yourself that would help bring down your anxiety? And can the therapist give a little bit something for you to hold on to so that you can actually see therapy through? There are therapists who can personalize your plan just like that. But again, Isha, you have to give it time. Just like antibiotics take 7 days to work, therapy needs that much time for it to work. If you stop antibiotics the third day, it's not going to be effective, right?
All right. Thank you.
All right. I can take about one more question, everyone, and then because our time is up, we will have to close. Nivedana, anyone else?
Yes, Ahana, please go ahead. Um, I don't think they're right. Other person raised. Kashish, please go ahead.
Ma'am, can you just quickly repeat the grounding chair technique?
Okay, the grounding chair technique. Just give me a minute. Um, all right. I'm just gonna go back. Right. So the grounding chair technique is when we need to ensure that what is done here is the principle is we're going to make sure that we can feel, we're going to use our skin to feel what exactly we're sitting on. So make sure that the slippers are off, And we're sitting in a comfortable chair where our feet reaches the floor. We're going to close our eyes and we're going to focus on the breath that we take. We breathe in slowly for the count of 3 and then out slowly as well. And our mind's focus is going to be on our body. How does my body feel sitting in that chair? We're going to scoot our body to the back of the seat so that the whole length of your back is pressed into the back of your chair. And we're going to feel the contact between our body and the chair's surface. If the chair has an arm, you're going to touch the arm of the chair. You're going to feel the texture of the chair. If it doesn't if it doesn't have an arm, you're going to feel the texture of the seat. And what we're going to do is we're going to push our feet into the ground. And what we're doing is we're imagining the energy drain from the top of our body, down our body, onto our feet, and we're going to release it into the ground. This is the basis of the grounding chair technique. All the stored up
Thank you,
energy.
ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, Kashish. All right, and with that, I think we're going to stop taking questions. Everyone, if you feel that you need more help, if you feel that you need personalized help, please get in touch with either Nivedana or me. Our contact details are available on the group, or you can just go to the MindTribe website and you can search for therapist. You can either search for the two of us, or you can search for any other therapist that you seem to be able to be connecting with better. Right? Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. Nivedana, is there anything else that we have to discuss?
The certificates, someone has asked about certificates. The information about certificates will be put up on the group. There'll be a feedback form. Please fill it and have a great day.